Good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin by acknowledging that we are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Katzie, Kwantlen, and Semiahmoo First Nations. My name is Ernie Klassen. I'm the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries and the Member of Parliament for South Surrey, White Rock. Thank you for being with us here today. It's a great pleasure to join the Honourable Sean Fraser, Minister of Justice, and the Attorney General of Canada, together with my colleagues MP Suk Dhaliwal, MP Zoe Royer, and MP Gurbakh Sanai. We're also joined by the Attorney General of British Columbia, the Honourable Niki Sharma, and Mayor Brenda Locke, Chief Constable Harj Sidhu, and Chief Constable Todd Matsumoto. As Minister Fraser has often said, the Government of Canada is focused on creating safe communities and ensuring our justice system is trusted, fair, and effective. Our efforts rest on three pillars: strengthening Canada's criminal laws, supporting our frontline law enforcement, and investing in long-term crime prevention measures. These efforts are paying off, particularly in modernizing our criminal laws. Parliament has now passed three major bills to strengthen protections against hate crimes, make bail laws stricter and toughen sentences, better protect victims and survivors, and keep kids safe from predators. In particular, I want to mention the Protecting Victims Act, which received royal assent on June 18, with most measures coming into force on July 18. It brings in stronger penalties for sexual exploitation, intimate partner violence, and AI deepfakes. Importantly, it defines femicide as killing of females that occur in the context of sexual violence, exploitation, or misogyny, or killings of female intimate partner in the context of coercive control, a significant change that reflects the magnitude of this crime. Incidents of femicide and intimate partner violence continue to devastate lives across Canada, including here in British Columbia. The tragic death of Bailey McCourt, in particular, is vivid in our minds. Her story has been a catalyst for the change we are seeing in our laws. The Protecting Victims Act works in concert with Bailey's law to better address intimate partner violence. For Bailey and for every victim and survivor of these appalling crimes. I'd now like to invite Mayor Brenda Locke to give us a few remarks.
Well, thank you, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Surrey City Hall. Surrey has seen firsthand how extortion and organized crime can devastate our businesses, our families, and our community. We are in the third year of this crisis, and our residents and business owners deserve to feel safe. Earlier this year, I traveled to Ottawa, met with federal ministers, and called for stronger action to address transnational issues. I also had the opportunity to meet with Prime Minister Carney, who pledged the federal government would be a full partner in addressing this violence. Surrey has been clear that public safety requires all levels of government to work together, and these reforms are an important example of that collaboration in action. I am grateful to the Prime Minister and the work that he has done to make good on his commitment to us. I want to thank Minister Fraser and the Government of Canada for listening to municipalities and for taking action on issues that affect so many communities right across our country. I look forward to continuing to work with all of our partners to address these measures and make a real difference on the ground. And I want to, in addition, especially thank Minister Krieger. She has been just a rock for us here in the City of Surrey, so I want to thank her and express our gratitude. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mayor Locke. I would personally like to thank Minister Fraser for his strong leadership in creating a safer community for all Canadians. Let me now turn it over to my colleague, Minister Fraser, for more details on this act, as well as new laws to strengthen our bail regime and combat hate. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. Look, thank you very much, Ernie, colleagues. Thank you so much for being here. Niki, it's wonderful to have you. And Brenda, it's very grateful for you to give us the space. And most of all, to law enforcement represented here today. I just want to express my gratitude, not only for being here today, for what you do every day to keep our community safe. Public safety is a top priority for the federal government, and it's become a top priority because we heard loud and clear from Canadians that they want to see action. People are frustrated when they see extortion impacting homes and businesses in their communities, when they see home invasions or auto theft or assault be carried out, particularly by violent repeat offenders who are known to offend, to be released only to offend again. We have an opportunity to address some of these very serious challenges, but they're not going to happen by accident. We have to take decisions that are going to better equip our communities to protect themselves, including support for law enforcement. The public safety strategy, as my colleague Ernie had laid out, rests on three key pillars. The first is to adopt stronger laws in Canada's criminal code. The second is to support those on the front line who are tasked with keeping communities safe. And the third is to make upstream investments in affordable and transitional housing, in mental health and addictions, and making investments in programs that target at-risk youth. But today I want to focus on the first pillar, which is strengthening Canada's criminal laws. We have recently seen the House of Commons adopt three key laws: the Combating Hate Act, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act, and the Protecting Victims Act. These three bills have now been adopted into Canadian law and will come into force by the end of next week. The purpose of my being here is not just to provide a summary of these laws that are now on the books in Canada, but to say thank you to the people who helped inform them. The process of developing these different laws has been the most collaborative experience I've seen in 11 years of politics. Provincial governments across Canada, notably including BC and in particular Attorney General Sharma, have been tremendous partners to inform the legislative process. We've seen municipalities raising concerns around retail crime, making sure that we deal with high-volume offenders who are calling into question whether people feel safe in their communities, and from law enforcement who, when asked, had the solutions that we're now implementing ready to go. The kinds of changes that we're seeing are going to have stronger responses to hate crimes in this country. They're going to see dramatic reforms to our system of bail, particularly when it deals with violent repeat offenders, those who commit violent acts of extortion, those who are engaged in home invasion and auto theft, those who commit violent assaults against community members. We're going to see a series of changes, including new conditions when bail is issued, but clear guidance to the courts where the public safety imperative cannot be managed. Detention should be the result. We're creating a series of reverse onuses for provisions that we know are either tied to organized crime or are tied to a high likelihood for a person to offend again and again. In addition to some of these changes when it comes to the bail system in Canada, we're asking courts to impose stronger sentences for certain crimes. This includes by looking at aggravating factors for attacks against our first responders on the line of duty who are seeking to keep our community safe. It includes crimes committed against our essential infrastructure, and it includes organized retail crime, where the motivation is profiteering for someone who's doing great damage not just to individual businesses, but to entire communities. We're also asking the courts to look at consecutive sentencing for certain kinds of offences, including extortion and arson, for example, to ensure that if you receive two-year sentences, you won't be able to serve them necessarily concurrently or at the same time, but instead will serve them back-to-back, resulting in a more severe penalty, and we expect fewer crimes committed in the long term. In addition to these bills, the Protecting Victims Act is taking big steps when it comes to addressing intimate partner violence, gender-based violence, and the exploitation of kids in the real world and in an online environment. We are seeing new changes that will establish a constructive first-degree murder charge in cases of femicide. We are seeing new changes that will see a new offence created around coercive control. We're also seeing new changes, including criminalizing the circulation of intimate images created through AI deepfakes. I also want to draw attention to a fourth piece of legislation, in which we worked very closely with the family of Bailey McCourt. We know a very somber anniversary has just passed over the course of the past few days. We had an opportunity to work with opposition members of Parliament, but also directly with the family, who were advocating for change to deal more severely with cases of intimate partner violence, with murders that were committed that would be classified as a femicide. To the family members who worked so hard to advance Bill C-225, Bailey's Law, know that we are grateful for the opportunity to work with you, and we believe the protections that we put in place are going to have a profound and positive impact. Just to give you a few examples of the kinds of things that we're seeing in this bill that came through the collaborative process. I remember the early conversations that I had with Minister Sharma about this bill, including Bailey McCourt's case. That is the reason why we see new changes to the criminal code that will make bail more difficult for someone who has been convicted but not yet been sentenced. That is the reason why we see new offences that are being dealt with in some of the bail proceedings I mentioned, including reverse onuses, where you're dealing with cases of assault that include intimate partner violence and strangulation or choking. That is a great predictor of potential future violence. When we dealt with different levels of government, including municipalities, we heard loud and clear that we need to send a strong signal, not only to the most violent acts, but to the highest volume offenders who are terrorizing downtowns and causing people to feel unsafe in their communities. But most of all, I want to say thank you to law enforcement officials from every region in this country who have helped provide advice to make sure that we got the provisions right. It's not lost on me that we are seeing another funeral of a police officer in Canada today. This is not the first over just the past few weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have an opportunity to speak to a frontline law enforcement official in your community, say thank you. We owe an enormous debt of gratitude to those who are willing to risk their lives to keep the rest of us safe. To those who are present here today, I know your service is sincerely appreciated. I want to say thank you to each and every person, each and every government, each and every organization that helped inform these bills. When we strengthen Canada's criminal laws, when we support those on the front line and make upstream investments, we can build a stronger Canada and safer communities. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you here today.
Thank you very much, Minister Fraser. I also want to echo what you have just said around acknowledging the police officers and the people that keep us safe in Canada, which is what all of us are working towards, to create a safer place at all levels of government. It's now my privilege to invite the Honourable Niki Sharma, Deputy Premier and Attorney General of British Columbia, to come forward with a few words.
First time I've heard that pronunciation, but that's okay. Niki Sharma. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Just want to thank Mayor Locke for her constant advocacy and hosting us here today for her city. It's impressive. And all the enforcement that is behind us, not only wearing their uniform proudly, but also show up every day, as Minister Fraser mentioned. Today is a big moment because I get to host Minister Fraser here in BC and talk about the good work of law reform that we did together. When I was preparing for coming here today, I reflected on the series of letters that he received from me that went from a range of intimate partner violence to changes to extortion, chronic repeat offenders, and making sure that sentencing and our laws here kept those people that communities were saying needed to be kept behind bars. And that was BC's perspective that I was able to present to him. And what happened on the other side of that, I think, just to agree with Minister Fraser, was really unprecedented. Not only were attorneys generals across this country who had their own lists and sometimes common problems, but we had a receptive ear in the federal government. They listened. They figured out how to solve pretty complicated problems when it comes to how to integrate the things that we were suggesting into the criminal code. And what resulted in that really collaborative process was the series of bills that Minister Fraser mentioned. And I think it not only was unprecedented, but we in BC are really grateful that that collaboration resulted in the changes that will make our criminal code stronger, will keep repeat offenders off the streets, will help strengthen our rules for extortion, that those people that terrorize communities like Surrey are held accountable, and will step up for intimate partner violence. I think, as Minister Fraser mentioned, the Bailey McCourt story shocked our province, still drives all of us to make sure that that never happens again, including the work that we're doing at our ministry to strengthen responses to intimate partner violence. And I'm grateful that changes to the criminal code, due in a large part to that family's advocacy, are now the law in Canada. The criminal justice system and public safety is a multi-level endeavor. We have to work together to solve these very complicated problems and the evolving nature of crime as it shows up on our streets. And then we can figure out what those solutions are only by listening and talking to each other. And I just have to say I'm really grateful that that was the process that led us to here today. BC is very focused on implementing the changes. Not only do we have all of the actors that are receiving the bills once they become law, to making sure they're adjusting their policies internally. I just want to make a note of saying a new launch of a program that Minister Krieger, who's been really hard at work at as Mayor Locke has mentioned, the chronic offenders initiative that has launched across the province, including 2 hubs here in Surrey. And this initiative is going to accompany the criminal code changes to circle around those offenders that we've seen in our communities that are causing repeat crime at that level, that's causing small businesses to be really upset and frustrated and really need a solution. Those 2 hubs will have experts like the law enforcement that we see behind us, the Crown Council and probation officers, and other community organizations circling around those individuals to really reduce their impact on community and stabilize them. We've had success with the REVOI program, the Repeat Violent Offender Initiative, that this is modeled after. So we're continuing to make sure that we do our part here in BC to keep our community safe, and grateful for the collaboration. Thanks for having me.
Lots of space here.
Thank you, Deputy Premier. I won't try and mention your name again. And now I'd like to invite Chief Constable Harj Sidhu from the Delta Police Department to come forward and say a few words.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Minister Fraser, for the invitation to be here today and for your leadership in advancing these important reforms. Across British Columbia and here in our local communities, people expect a justice system that protects the public, supports victims, and keeps pace with the reality of crime today. As police leaders, we are often asked, why does this keep happening? Why is this person back on the street so quickly? Those are difficult conversations our officers have with community every day. Our officers see how crime changes lives, not just for victims, but for families and our communities. The people we serve deserve to feel safe and have confidence that the justice system will protect them. That is why I joined my fellow police leaders across Canada in calling for reforms like those contained in Bill C-14. Public confidence in our justice system is earned when people see that victims are protected, offenders are held accountable, and the justice system responds to today's realities. Bill C-14 is an important step in that direction. The reforms in this bill strengthen Canada's bail and sentencing framework by giving police and the courts stronger tools to respond to public safety challenges we are dealing with today, including repeat violent offenders. Ultimately, though, success will not be measured by how many new laws are passed. It will be measured by what matters most: fewer people becoming victims of violent crime, greater public confidence that the justice system is working as it should, and most importantly, safer communities across British Columbia and Canada. Bill C-14 is meaningful progress, but our work does not end here. Our communities have changed. The challenges facing policing have changed. Our justice system must continue to evolve alongside them. That means continuing to modernize our justice system so police, prosecutors, and the courts have the tools to respond effectively to increasing complex crimes. We will continue working with our policing partners, the justice sector, and our communities to help ensure these reforms are implemented effectively and ultimately achieve their intended outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And after the next speaker, we'll have a question and answer period. I'd like to invite Chief Constable Todd Matsumoto from the Surrey Police Department to come forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. My thanks to Minister Fraser for inviting me here today and for bringing together partners from across the justice and public safety community. As police leaders, we focus on the operational realities we see in our communities and on working with our partners across the justice system to keep people safe. Every day, our officers see the real-world impact that crime has on families, victims, business owners, and neighborhoods. In Surrey, we have seen the harm caused by extortion, organized crime, repeat violent offending, and the fear these crimes create for victims. We've also seen the broader impact these crimes can have on community confidence, particularly when individuals feel targeted or vulnerable. Public safety is not an abstract concept. It is about whether people feel safe opening their businesses, walking through their neighborhoods, and raising their families. Addressing those challenges requires collaboration. Police cannot do it alone. Success depends on strong partnerships between law enforcement, all levels of government, prosecutors, courts, victim services, and community organizations. The changes contained in the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act are intended to strengthen how the criminal justice system responds to serious and repeat offending. From a policing perspective, an arrest is not the end of the story. The outcomes that follow from bail decisions to sentencing can influence victim confidence, public safety, and demands placed on the police and the broader justice system. Victims deserve confidence that the justice system recognizes the harms that they have experienced. Communities expect a system they can respond effectively to emergency crime trends, while police officers rely on clear and consistent processes that support public safety. In Surrey, we have seen criminal networks adapt their methods, for example, through extortion schemes. As those threats change, the criminal justice system must be able to adapt and respond effectively. The reforms coming into force are intended to strengthen the response to those challenges through changes to bail and sentencing provisions. Ultimately, people have the right to be safe, to feel safe in their communities. Surrey Police Service will continue working alongside our political and justice sector partners and to make sure that that happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of my colleagues up here, and especially to Minister Fraser for joining us here in British Columbia. That concludes this portion, and I'll now invite the moderator to come forward to look after the question and answer period.
Thank you. That concludes the press conference portion. We'll now take questions from the media. Please introduce yourself and we'll do one question and one follow-up per media. Merci. Cela conclut la conférence de presse. Nous allons maintenant prendre des questions des médias. S'il te plaît, vous introduire et nous allons prendre une question et un suivi par média. Merci.
Hello, John Hernandez with CBC News here. Some big news out of California today regarding Operation Hardball, I believe it's called. Dozens arrested and charges laid, including against the Bishnoi gang regarding the assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Just for the AG, just your reaction to what we heard today.
It's a reaction of gratitude. I want to say thank you to the members of the RCMP involved with this multi-year investigation. Thank you to our counterparts south of the border who've been extraordinary in the collaboration to deal with senior leadership within 3 transnational criminal organizations, including the Bishnoi gang, but not exclusively the Bishnoi gang. We're dealing with organizations that are responsible for widespread extortion, for kidnappings, for trafficking, for violence, including the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. This is an extraordinary example of collaborative cross-border police work. There's more details that we'll be rolling out. I want to protect the integrity of the ability of the RCMP and our American counterparts to to complete the investigation and prosecution that will continue from this point. But this is an extraordinary day that has a remarkable opportunity to reduce the community level experience when it comes to organized crime, including extortion, right here in British Columbia.
And then just what is the magnitude of what we heard say about, I guess, the size of these operations transnationally and here in Canada, and what risks they maybe have posed to Canadians over the past few years?
Well, the risks are well known, but they've been reflected in the lived experience of Canadians living in communities who've seen extortion in their neighbourhoods, at local businesses, who have been the victims of trafficking. We literally have the murder of a Canadian citizen at the hands of foreign actors, at least to some degree. The safety risks can't be overstated when you're dealing with the level of criminal organizations that have this kind of sophistication and global reach. But we also know that the quality of the police work that's gone into today's news is so extraordinary. What we expect to see as a result of today is a changed experience for Canadians and communities when it comes to the kinds of crimes that these criminal organizations have been perpetuating. The magnitude of today's news cannot be overstated, and I just want to reiterate my gratitude to the men and women who serve in the RCMP for their extraordinary work leading to today's news.
Hi, Martin McMahon with CTV. Minister, could you share anything about the involvement of Canadian police in this Operation Hardball investigation? Anything you can share? I appreciate its early stages. And hoping just for some local reaction to this as well from Attorney General Sharma and Mayor Locke as well.
Yeah, so the RCMP have been an integral part of this investigation, again, with the cross-border collaboration with our American counterparts. There's obviously been a series of arrests here in British Columbia. There's a Canadian component to this story, but beyond the presence of individuals here at this particular moment in time, this is a multi-year investigation with senior levels of the RCMP who've been informing the investigation every step of the way, who've been providing intelligence, who've been cooperating with American counterparts to ensure we have a clear picture of the full reach of these three different criminal organizations, both in Canada and the United States. The bulk of the activity leading to the arrests that have been reported may have taken place in the United States, but the role of the RCMP was an integral partner in the investigation. I hesitate to share what other details I may have received in a briefing this morning. I don't want to jeopardize investigative techniques or potential evidence that may come forward as these matters proceed toward trial. But again, if I can just re-offer my gratitude to those RCMP officers who played such an integral role in this investigation. Your work is going to help create safer communities in British Columbia and Canada, and we thank you for it.
Thanks. So I'll start with gratitude again. It was also my understanding is BC RCMP was also involved in the investigations. In BC, the Bishnoi gang and the terror that it has inflicted upon citizens of these, not only Surrey, but communities across the province, led us to call for the federal government to designate the Bishnoi gang as a terrorist organization. We were the province that led the way on that, and we're grateful that the federal government did do that. It's led to, I think, more tools in the investigation, but really we just have gratitude for the work that was done with this very exceptional and pretty large news today. This international in its reach, including 3 here in BC, and we'll send a message to those gangs that are operating internationally, including the Bishnoi gang, that with coordinated effort and deep focus of our law enforcement, we can come after them.
Thank you. Surrey, as you know, has felt like a city that has been under siege for some time, so the announcement today was really important to us all, and likewise I am so very grateful to the RCMP, to our the American forces that helped us with that, and to all of police agencies, including Surrey Police Service, that have all been really part of trying to get a handle on what terror had been imposed on our city. So I can only say I'm very, very grateful for that. The assassination of Mr. Nidger was incredibly difficult for not just one part of our city, our entire city. It left people in extraordinary fear. And so today's announcement has a huge impact. And so, again, just very, very grateful to all of law enforcement that helped with this.
And Minister Fraser, just in terms of the announcement today, no mystery to you, there has been a lot of criticism over the years about this stretching on for quite a long time. I appreciate there has been change at the top, but ultimately it has been the Liberals in power for over a decade now. Why did it take so long for some of these changes to be brought in?
Regarding the investigation or the changes were...
Stricter bail.
Yeah, certainly. So, look, we have formed a new government a little more than a year ago. When I was asked to take on this position in May of last year, the very first thing that the Prime Minister asked me to do was to undertake a process of engagement to identify how we can change Canada's criminal laws to give Canadians confidence that they can live safely in their communities. That process really played out in earnest over the course of summer last year. When I was engaged in meetings including Minister Sharma's office, with municipal leaders, with parliamentary colleagues of all parties, and importantly with police leaders across Canada. We came back in the fall, a few months after this Parliament was established, and put forward 3 pieces of legislation. In the first year, you've seen these 3 pieces of legislation not just tabled in Parliament, but adopted into law, and by the end of next week that will actually be in force. We have seen, in addition to those 3 pieces of legislation, most of our bills, more than any other subject area, have focused on public safety, not just in reforms to the criminal code, but lawful access to give police the tools that they need, changes that will allow for a clear path to deportation for people who commit serious or violent crimes in this country that don't have the rights of citizenship to remain when they face that kind of charge or conviction. You're going to see a continued focus on public safety because it's become a priority for Canadians. So although there are things we could have or should have done to a greater degree, some reforms began before the time of Mr. Carney becoming Prime Minister. But I can tell you, working alongside him from the very first day, this has been a top priority. And when I look back at the first year effectively in office under the government post-election, to see 3 new bills actually become law is a meaningful change that has moved more quickly than any other policy area in government.
Hi, Kristen Robinson with Global BC for Minister Fraser. Last week we spoke with a woman who was clubbed on the head with a piece of wood by a stranger at a public beach on a packed sunny day. Broad daylight, random attack. The suspect was released from custody 48 hours later against the wishes of police and the alleged victim. This is just one of many cases we follow regularly where a violent suspect is released into the community against the wishes of the community and law enforcement. Why will these changes be any different from the other promises we've heard recently to keep violent suspects in custody and the public safe?
So first of all, if people are looking to trust the changes that we're making, you would be right to approach any political actor with a healthy degree of skepticism and dig in and look for yourself as to what the text of the legislation says. And if you want to receive validation for the changes, look at the group of people and organizations who've come out to endorse this. Every national policing organization has endorsed this bill. Every single provincial government in Canada has endorsed this bill. Cities from across Canada has said this is specifically what we've been asking for, and the federal government has taken action. So when it comes to actually trying to identify what makes these reforms different from other attempts that may have been made over the course of the last number of decades, this was informed deeply by the people who work most closely to the problems that we're trying to solve. Police officers on the ground, provincial governments who run the systems, and cities who see the impacts of violent crime and violent repeat offenders in particular every day in their communities. The example you gave, though, is exactly what's motivating these kinds of changes. We will not accept a Canada where people fear that they're going to be attacked at random in the streets and that the offender will be released with impunity. We won't accept a Canada where violence has become an expectation rather than an exception. What we want to do is to build safer communities, including by strengthening Canada's criminal laws. I don't mean to suggest that reforming any one law, the criminal code or otherwise, is going to fix every public safety problem that we face in Canada, but it is an essential ingredient as we move forward to a safer experience in this country. Know that we're going to continue to work very closely with law enforcement to give them the tools that they need to conduct investigations, to prosecute violent crime, but the whole thing falls apart if we're not also making those upstream investment aimed at building healthier people and safer communities in the long term. When you do take a holistic approach, when you don't operate in silos within government, but you actually ask community actors, what are the solutions that you're seeing work in your community? We'd like to do more of those. You actually can identify examples of success. So we hope that fewer and fewer of those stories find themselves in the newspapers, and instead we'll spend more time in reading about them in our history books.
Okay, and just the same follow-up for Minister Fraser and AG Sharma. Why should the public be confident in these changes, and how soon will we see a tangible difference on our streets?
First of all, the public should be confident because of the process that we engaged in to develop these reforms. We didn't sit behind closed doors on Parliament Hill. We asked people who are actually implementing these solutions in their communities what's working and what changes do you need to see from us in order to make sure you can do what you're being asked to do when it comes to keeping our community safe. That includes law enforcement, it includes Crown prosecutors, it includes the courts, it includes different levels of government as well. But when you actually crowdsource ideas from the people who live closest to the problems you're trying to address, you're going to come up with very good ideas. I can point to dozens of reforms in the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act alone that were directly attributable to individual counterparts I've had in different provinces. I drew attention to some of them today from Minister Sharma. But if there are further changes that we need to make, we're not saying that this is the end of the public safety agenda for the Liberal government under Prime Minister Carney. We're saying this is an important step in the right direction. It's an important step in a new direction, and with continued focus on public support and an open door to make continued changes where appropriate, we believe we can build safer communities in this country.
So it's so vitally important that people have confidence in our justice system, and I think that's the root of the question that you asked me. It's something that I spend every day as Attorney General trying to figure out how to make better for everybody across the province, and with the criminal code changes, it'll affect the whole country. And it involves many solutions. It's not only the upfront supports that we provide people that are on a path that is going to get them entrenched in the criminal justice system and cause harm to community, and we have a lot of investments that have gone into that in the province, including a diversion centre that I believe we also worked with the federal government on up north, and other initiatives. It goes to the supports that we give our law enforcement. We talked about the Repeat Violent Offender Initiative that we established a few years ago that has some of the most remarkable results that I've seen in terms of circling around those repeat violent offenders and keeping them from offending and increasing the punishments targeted at them, including now the Chronic Offender Initiative that we've launched with 2 hubs in Surrey and across the province. And with these criminal code reforms, all of these things will work together, but what I can promise you is that the justice system and public safety is ever evolving. Crimes are evolving, the tools of crimes are evolving, what communities are experiencing are evolving, and our job is to understand how they're evolving and then have a conversation not only with the federal government but with law enforcement and different ministries to try to solve it.
Just to follow up, this legislation will go into effect next week, I believe, will officially become law. How soon from that date will the public actually start seeing a difference on our streets?
Yeah, I mean, once it's law of the land, hopefully right away it'll show up. Well, the judges of our province and our whole country, they'll be charged with administering the law as it is and under the criminal code. Crown Counsel, and we had a representative that talked this morning, will update their directives that are about how they make their arguments in court to align with the criminal code changes. Law enforcement will also do the same. So all of these instruments of the justice system will then be operating under these new laws, and hopefully the results will show up pretty quickly.
C2.
That's it.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Look, thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate you all coming out, and hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks so much.